In the freezing Arctic wilderness, you face one of the world's deadliest predators, the polar bear. Without protection, your chances of surviving an attack are less than 10%. While many think polar bears stay away from humans, they can become aggressive when hungry or threatened. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples like the Inuit have lived alongside these powerful creatures, developing clever ways to stay safe that we're just starting to learn about. The vast Arctic region is home to both polar bears and Inuit communities, creating an interesting dynamic of coexistence that has lasted for thousands of years. Currently, there are between 22,000 to 31,000 polar bears spread across the Arctic Circle. The largest populations are found in the Canadian Arctic, where about 16,000 bears make their home on the sea ice and coastal areas. In Canada alone, about 65,000 Inuit live in 53 communities across the Northern Territories, with many of these settlements located in prime polar bear habitat. The overlap between polar bear and Inuit territories naturally leads to frequent encounters. In Nunavut, Canada's largest territory, wildlife officials record between 380, 400 polar bear encounters each year, and those are just the reported cases. Here's a surprising statistic. In some communities, like Arviat on the western shore of Hudson Bay, residents report seeing polar bears near their homes at least once a week during the ice-free season. The frequency of these encounters has actually increased in recent decades. As sea ice patterns change, bears are spending more time on land, leading to more interactions with Inuit communities. In the 1980s, a typical coastal community might have reported 20-30 bear encounters per year. Today, some communities are dealing with hundreds of encounters annually, making traditional knowledge about bear behavior more crucial than ever. In a world before high-powered rifles and electric fences, the Inuit developed remarkable methods to stay safe from polar bears. Their approach wasn't based on modern technology. It relied on something far more powerful. Generations of accumulated knowledge passed down through careful observation and lived experience. The foundation of their survival strategy started with viewing bears not as mindless killing machines, but as intelligent equals deserving of respect. This wasn't just a philosophical stance, it was practical survival wisdom. By understanding bears as thinking creatures with patterns and behaviors, the Inuit could better predict and avoid dangerous encounters. Their first line of defense was an incredible ability to detect bears before any direct contact. Hunters developed a sophisticated technique of reading wind patterns, using their wetted fingers to detect minute changes in wind direction. They would create small snow piles to watch how the wind scattered the loose snow, revealing hidden air currents that could carry a bear's scent. One elder recalled his father's ability to detect a bear from over 2 kilometers away just by reading these subtle wind patterns. The Inuit became master trackers, able to read stories in the snow that most people would miss entirely. They could determine a bear's size from the depth of its prints, its hunger level, from the directness of its path, and even its intention from the spacing between tracks. A straight-line track meant a bear with purpose, usually hunting. Meandering tracks suggested a less urgent threat. As one hunter put it, "The snow is like a newspaper if you know how to read it." Perhaps their most remarkable skill was identifying different types of bear breathing sounds. They recognized the low, steady breathing of a curious bear, which could turn aggressive, the quick, shallow pants of a frightened bear, likely to run away, and the deep, throaty growls of an aggressive bear, time to implement their backup plans. These skills proved so effective that some modern polar bear researchers have started incorporating traditional Inuit knowledge into their safety protocols. All these methods work together to help the Inuit avoid confrontation, but they knew that wasn't always a noog. When you can smell something delicious cooking, chances are a polar bear can detect it from even further away. The Inuit understood that a bear's incredible sense of smell, able to detect a seal from 20 miles away, made food management their most crucial defense against unwanted visits. Meat storage was a carefully planned operation. The Inuit never kept food stores near their living areas, instead creating specialized storage caches downwind from their camps. These caches were typically built on raised platforms using ice blocks, keeping the food elevated and harder for bears to access. Some communities would even create multiple storage sites, spreading out their food to avoid creating one highly attractive target that might draw in a particularly persistent bear. The use of seal oil lamps required special consideration. While these lamps were essential for heat and light, their strong smell could attract bears from miles away. The solution? Strategic placement. Lamps were positioned so their smoke would be carried away from the main living areas, using the prevailing wind patterns. During particularly dangerous periods, they would use a clever system of snow-block wind barriers to disperse the lamp smoke and confuse bears trying to track the scent. Cooking presented another challenge. The Inuit developed specific methods for managing cooking smells, like creating special cooking areas separate from their main camps. They would often cook in sealed snow kitchens with ventilation tunnels designed to disperse smells. One particularly clever technique involved burning specific types of moss alongside their cooking fires. The moss smoke helped mask food odors. Their traditional food preservation methods also helped reduce bear attraction. Rather than leaving meat to dry in the open, they developed techniques for aging meat in stone caches packed with snow, which minimized the spread of enticing smells. As one elder once said, "You need to be smarter than the bear's nosy." Building a safe shelter in polar bear country isn't just about keeping warm, it's about creating a fortress. The Inuit mastered the art of defensive architecture using nothing but snow and ice, turning simple shelters into surprisingly sophisticated bear-resistant structures. The iconic igloo, for instance, wasn't just designed for warmth. Its dome shape made it incredibly strong, capable of supporting a bear's weight if one decided to climb on top. The entrance tunnel was intentionally built narrow and low, making it difficult for a bear's broad shoulders to squeeze through. Some igloos even featured multiple chambers with tight turns, creating a maze-like layout that bears found frustrating to navigate. Strategic placement was crucial. Camps were always built on elevated ground with clear sight lines in all directions, letting them spot approaching bears. They would position their shelters so that prevailing winds would carry human scents away from known bear paths. One particularly clever technique involved building their settlements near natural ice ridges, which bears typically avoided due to the difficult terrain. The Inuit developed an ingenious natural alarm system using packed snow. Around their shelters, they would create paths of specially compressed snow that would make distinct crunching sounds when walked on. Different areas would have different sounds. Deeper crunches for the paths closest to sleeping areas, helping them identify exactly where a bear might be approaching from, even in complete darkness. In areas known for frequent bear activity, the community organized watch shifts throughout the night. These weren't just boring guard duties. They used the time to tell stories, work on tools, and teach younger members about bear behavior. One Inuit friend once told me, "The night watch was our first form of late-night television." The watch person would be positioned in a specially built ice shelter with views in all directions, equipped with warning signals to alert the camp if danger approached. When avoidance failed and confrontation became inevitable, the Inuit had an impressive arsenal of traditional weapons and tools developed over thousands of years. While modern hunters rely on high-powered rifles, their ancestors crafted remarkably effective weapons from materials found in their harsh environment. The primary defensive weapon was the nanuliak, a specialized bear spear measuring about 7 feet long. These weren't just simple pointed sticks. They were engineering masterpieces crafted from driftwood or whalebone, designed specifically for polar bear encounters. The shaft was typically made from seasoned driftwood, chosen for its strength and ability to flex without breaking in extreme cold. The spearhead, often crafted from walrus ivory or bone, was designed with special barbs that would break off inside the bear, creating a traceable blood trail if the bear fled. What made these spears particularly fascinating was their modular design. The head could be quickly replaced if damaged, and some hunters carried multiple heads for different situations. They even developed a clever quick-release system that let them detach the spear shaft if a bear grabbed it, leaving the barbed head embedded while allowing the hunter to escape, a feature that saved many lives over generations. The Inuit also relied heavily on sled dogs for protection. These weren't just transportation, they were a sophisticated early warning system and defensive force. Teams of dogs were trained to form specific formations when bears approached, creating a protective circle around their humans while making enough noise to discourage most bears. One elder recalled his grandfather's lead dog, who could distinguish between male and female bear scents and would signal differently for each. Traditional barriers and traps played a crucial role too. The Inuit created sophisticated warning systems using strings of hollow seal bones that would rattle in the wind, positioned to alert them of approaching bears. They also developed clever defensive structures using ice blocks, creating narrow passages that would slow down charging bears and give defenders better positioning. Maintaining these weapons in the extreme Arctic cold required special techniques. Spear shafts were regularly treated with seal oil to prevent cracking in low temperatures, and spare parts were stored in special snow caches designed to maintain consistent temperatures. Metal tools, which they acquired through trade in later years, required extra care. They would often wrap metal spearheads in seal skin to prevent them from becoming brittle in the extreme cold. As one hunter put it, "In the Arctic, your weapon is only as good as your maintenance routine." The Arctic isn't a static environment. It transforms dramatically with each season, and so did the Inuits' approaches to polar bear safety. They understood that bears behave differently throughout the year, requiring distinct protection strategies for each season. Spring was considered the most dangerous time. After months of winter fasting, bears would emerge hungry and aggressive, making them more likely to view humans as potential prey. During this period, the Inuit would double their safety measures. They established strict protocols about traveling in groups and restricted hunting to the brightest parts of the day when bears were typically less active. One elder's records show that 40% of all serious bear encounters occurred during spring months, earning this season the nickname the Time of Hungry Shadows. Summer brought its own challenges. As sea ice melted, bears were forced onto land, increasing the likelihood of encounters near coastal camps. The Inuit adapted by moving their settlements inland during these months, maintaining a careful distance from the shoreline where bears frequently patrolled. They developed specific summer travel routes that avoided known bear denning areas and feeding grounds. Their hunting practices shifted too. Instead of hunting seals on ice edges where bears might compete, they focused more on caribou and fish during these months. Fall required another set of adaptations. This was when bears would be actively hunting, building up fat reserves for winter. The Inuit knew that bears would follow similar patterns year after year, allowing them to create detailed mental maps of high-risk areas. They would mark these locations using cairns, rock piles, to warn others, creating a sophisticated geographic warning system that lasted generations. One fascinating tradition involved maintaining bear calendars, detailed records of when and where bears appeared each year, helping them predict future patterns. Winter brought the unique challenge of 24-hour darkness. The Inuit developed remarkable techniques for reading ice patterns. Even in minimal light, they could identify dangerous pressure ridges where bears like to hunt seals by feeling snow density with their feet. They also knew that certain ice formations would amplify the sound of approaching bears and would deliberately position their camps near these natural warning systems. Winter hunting parties would build special snow walls around their camps, designed to reflect even the faintest moonlight and create better visibility for spotting approaching bears. The most remarkable aspect of these seasonal adaptations was how they were preserved and passed down. Each generation added their observations to this knowledge base, creating an incredibly detailed understanding of bear behavior throughout the year. The Inuit understood that protecting against polar bears wasn't just an individual responsibility. It required the entire community working together. They developed sophisticated systems that turned their settlements into cooperative networks of protection, where every member played a crucial role in keeping everyone safe. The layout of traditional villages was carefully planned with bear safety in mind. Homes were arranged in a circular pattern, creating clear sight lines between buildings and leaving no blind spots where bears could approach unnoticed. Storage areas were positioned on the outskirts, and common areas were placed in the center, providing safe spaces for children to play. The community would maintain multiple escape routes, with paths kept clear even during the heaviest snowfalls. Their warning systems were remarkably sophisticated. Different drum rhythms and vocal calls were developed to communicate specific types of bear threats. 3 quick drum beats meant a bear was spotted in the distance, while a continuous rhythm indicated immediate danger. Children learned these signals through traditional games, where they would practice responding to different warning calls while playing. As one elder once jokingly said, "Our children learned to run to safety before they learned to walk." The community also developed coordinated hunting strategies that maximized safety. When bears needed to be driven away from the settlement, Hunters would work in teams using specific formations. The most experienced hunters would lead, while others maintained communication through a series of whistles and hand signals. They even created special roles for younger members, who would act as runners, carrying messages between hunting groups. Perhaps most impressive was their system for teaching bear safety to children. Instead of using fear, they developed games that made learning fun while building crucial skills. Children played tracking games, following mock bear prints in the snow, and practiced reading wind directions through competitions. One popular game involved blindfolded children trying to identify different warning calls, teaching them to react to signals instinctively. These games ensured that crucial survival knowledge was passed down in a way that children would remember or life. The Inuits' success in living alongside polar bears wasn't about domination, but understanding. Through generations of knowledge, they created sophisticated methods to avoid conflict while respecting these powerful predators. Their wisdom reminds us that coexistence is possible through deep understanding rather than force.